The encounter in the ruins. The ruins were silent. Only the faint echo of Kale's boots touched the broken stones. He had walked across many strange worlds, but this place felt different. The air was heavy, like it remembered pain. Shadows crawled over the walls, and strange carvings glowed faintly under the dust. Kale adjusted the strap of his pack and held his flashlight steady. The beam cut across cracked statues of long-forgotten rulers. He wondered what kind of people had built such a place, and why it was abandoned. Then he heard it. A sound, soft, almost like a growl. Kale froze, every muscle tense. He turned his head slowly, shining the light into the corner. Something moved, quick and sharp, like a predator hiding in the dark. Kale lifted his hand toward the grip of his sidearm, but stopped when he saw her. She was crouched against the wall, her body tense, her glowing golden eyes fixed on him. Her ears twitched like those of a cat, fur-covered and sharp at the tips. A long tail curled protectively around her legs, but her body trembled, not with fear, but with something Kale could not yet understand. She was not like the other aliens he had seen. Her features were sharp, beautiful, almost human, but carried. The wildness of another world. Stay back, Kale said softly. His voice steady but low. The sound made her flinch. Her shoulders shook, her tail uncoiled, and a shiver ran through her body. Her lips parted slightly, a soft gasp leaving her throat as if his voice had struck something deep inside her. Kale narrowed his eyes, confused. He had seen many reactions from aliens, but never this. She tried to speak, her words broken and rough in the common tone. Your voice, she whispered, her claws pressing into the stone floor. Kale lowered his flashlight just enough not to blind her. He noticed scratches along her arms, dried blood on her side. She was wounded, too weak to stand, but still ready to fight. Her body trembled again when he said, "I won't hurt you." The moment the words left his mouth, she shuddered violently, her eyes closing for a second. It was as if his voice pulled on her very soul. Kale took a slow step forward, careful, not to alarm her. "Easy," he said, keeping his tone calm. Her breath quickened, her claws dragged lines across the stone, yet she did not attack. Instead, she whispered again, "Stop speaking, or I cannot." Control. Kale tilted his head. What did she mean? Her body's reaction wasn't fear. It was something else, something primal. The ruins seemed to pulse around them, the strange carvings glowing brighter as if listening to the moment. Kale's instincts told him to back away, but another part of him, stubborn, human, curious, kept him rooted. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Her body jolted, her ears twitched, and she let out a soft cry. Her eyes locked onto him, glowing brighter. "My name, Cyrilla," she breathed, her voice breaking. "You must leave." Before they return, Kale frowned, scanning the shadows. Who's coming? Her tail lashed once, her claws tightening. Hunters. They follow me. They will take me back, cage me, break me. The pain in her voice cut deeper than the silence of the ruins. Kale knew nothing about her, but he could see the fear in her eyes. Still, her strange reaction to his words weighed heavily in his mind. Each time he spoke, her body shook as if the sound was not just heard, but felt. It was like some hidden instinct inside her had been awakened. Cyrilla pressed her hand against the wound on her side. Her breathing was uneven, her golden eyes still fixed on Kale. "You are dangerous," she whispered. "Your voice. It binds me." Kale shook his head. "I don't understand." "You should not," she said with a low growl. "But my body." "It does." A rumble echoed through the ruins, distant but growing closer. Kale's eyes snapped toward the broken archways. He heard heavy steps, alien voices carried on the cold air. Cyrilla struggled to rise, but her legs gave way. Kale stepped forward and caught her before she fell. Her body stiffened against him, another shiver racing through her frame at his closeness. Her claws hovered over his chest as if she wanted to push him away, but couldn't. "They are here," she whispered, her voice shaking. "If they see you, they will kill you too." Cale set his jaw, his human stubbornness burning inside him. "I'm not leaving you," he said firmly. Her body trembled again, her eyes closing as his words echoed through her. A tear slid down her cheek, though her voice came out as a whispering growl. "Then, you have sealed both our fates." The shadows at the edge of the ruins shifted, alien silhouettes moving closer. Cale tightened his grip on her arm and pulled her gently behind the broken wall. His heart raced, but his voice was steady when he whispered, "Stay with me." Her breath caught, her body shuddered once more. Her instincts demanded an answer his voice had already given it. The instinct awakens. The ruins shook as the hunters drew closer. Their voices echoed, rough and cruel, speaking in a tongue Cale could not understand. Cirilla clung weakly to the broken wall, her ears twitching at every sound. Her golden eyes widened when Cale placed his hand on her shoulder. "Stay low," he whispered. The words made her gasp, her claws digging into the stone as another shiver passed through her body. Her instincts were no longer silent. They screamed at her with every sound from his mouth. Cale didn't know what he was awakening inside her, but he could see the effect. Plain as day, her breathing quickened, her tail lashed. Her body seemed to fight itself, and yet she didn't push him away. She stared at him with fear and something else, something deeper, something primal. The hunters stepped into the ruins, their shadows tall against the glowing carvings. Cale pressed his back to the wall, pulling Cirilla closer to shield her. Her body trembled against his chest, not only from fear, but from that instinct burning inside her. Her lips parted as she whispered through her shaking breath, "Your voice, it is the bond." "I cannot resist it," Cale frowned, whispering back, "Bond? What bond?" Her ears twitched again, her golden eyes locked on him. "My people? We were made to bond with warriors long ago," she said, her voice uneven, but the line was broken. "No voice could awaken us until you." Her body jerked as his whisper brushed her ears, as if every word carved deeper into her soul. She bit her lip hard, trying to fight it, but her instincts betrayed her, pulling her closer to him. The hunters. Footsteps grew louder. Cale clenched his fists, his human mind racing. He had no heavy weapons, only his sidearm and his wits. Still, he felt a strange fire rising inside him. He looked at her trembling body and whispered, "Then let me fight. For you." The moment those words reached her ears, Cirilla almost collapsed. Her claws scraped the stone. Her tail snapped against the ground. Her instincts screamed louder than ever. He was the one, the voice her body had been waiting for. Her bond was no choice now, it was survival. She clutched his arm, her claws digging lightly into his skin. "If you stay, you will die," she whispered, desperate. Cale looked straight into her glowing eyes, unshaken. "Better to fight than run," he said firmly. Her whole body jolted at the sound of his courage. The hunters entered the chamber, 3 tall figures, with jagged armor, their eyes glowing red in the half-dark. They carried long blades that hummed with alien energy. Cale pulled Cirilla behind a broken pillar. He knew if they spotted her, it was over. The hunters searched carefully, sniffing the air like beasts. Cale's heart pounded, but he forced himself to breathe slow and steady. Cirilla pressed close to him, her instincts almost overwhelming. Every breath of his voice was like fire inside her veins. Her people had always believed the bond was a curse and a blessing. Now she understood why she could not escape it. One hunter stepped closer. Cale tensed, waiting for the right moment. He whispered low, "Stay with me." Her body jerked violently, but her eyes locked with his. She nodded, unable to resist, unable to let go. The hunter turned his head, His glowing eyes narrowing, Kale moved fast. He grabbed a loose stone and hurled it across the chamber. The crash echoed, drawing the hunters toward the noise. Kale pulled. Cirilla threw a gap in the wall, his grip strong. Her body shuddered again at his touch, her instincts pulling her closer every second. They ran through the ruins, their steps echoing as the hunters roared behind them. Cirilla stumbled, her wound. Slowing her down, Kale caught her, lifting her with one arm, carrying her, despite her claws digging into him. Her golden eyes widened at his strength. He wasn't just protecting her, he was claiming her without knowing it. Her body could no longer deny the truth. The bond was real, and it was his voice. That awakened it. They reached the outer hall of the ruins. A night sky stretched above, stars burning across the endless dark. The hunters followed, their blades glowing brighter. Cirilla's strength faltered again, and she leaned into Kale, whispering in fear, "If you fight them, you will die." Kale looked out at the shadows, jaw tight. "Then I'll make sure." "They fall first," he said. Her body shuddered one final time. The instinct screaming in her blood, she realized something terrifying and powerful. Her survival no longer depended on her claws or her kind. It depended on the human whose voice had already claimed her heart and body. Asterisk. Enemies in the dark. The night outside the ruins was not silent. The stars above were sharp and cold, but the shadows moved with hunters. Their red eyes cut through the darkness like burning coals. Kale guided Cirilla across the broken stone path, his arm tight around her to keep her steady. She was weak, her wound bleeding again, yet every time he spoke, her body shuddered as if it found strength in his voice. Behind them, the hunters' voices rose, harsh and cruel. Their armor clanged as they spread out, hunting like wolves. Cirilla's ears twitched, her tail low, her breathing uneven. "They will not stop," she whispered, her claws pressing into Kale's sleeve. "They want me alive, but they will kill you without thought." Kale scanned the dark terrain, jagged rocks and half-buried machines left from an ancient war. "We'll give them a fight they won't forget," he said. His voice made Cirilla tremble again, the instinct inside, her clawing at her soul. Her people had always feared this bond, feared what it could turn them into. But now, she feared something else. She feared what would happen if this human left her. The hunters closed in, their blades humming, glowing faintly with alien power. Kale crouched behind a fallen wall, pulling Cirilla down with him. He counted their steps, 3 hunters, maybe more. He checked his sidearm, knowing it wasn't enough against armored killers. But humans didn't fight with just weapons. They fought with grit, with cleverness, with a refusal to bow down. "Stay low," he whispered. Cirilla's claws dug into the stone as her body shook again. Every word bound her tighter. She whispered back, her voice cracking, "My body listens to you, even when my mind resists." Kale looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then let it listen," he said, "because I'm not leaving you." A shadow moved overhead, one of the hunters climbing across the rocks. Kale grabbed a shard of metal from the ground and hurled it into the darkness. The sharp clang made the hunters turn, their red eyes flashing. In that instant, Kale pulled Cirilla to her feet and ran. The ground shook as the hunters followed, roaring in their alien tongue. Cirilla stumbled again, her wound weakening her. Kale caught her, half carrying her as they moved. She could feel his heartbeat against her, steady, unyielding. Her instincts screamed louder. His strength was feeding the bond, making it stronger. Her claws clutched, his arm not in fear now, but in desperate need. They reached a collapsed bridge, the remains of ancient metal stretching over a black abyss. Kale glanced at it, then at the hunters charging behind him. "We cross," he said. Cirilla's eyes widened, her ears pressing back. "It won't hold," she warned. Kale's voice came firm, sharp. "It only needs to hold long enough." Her body jolted again. the bond surging with his determination. Kale stepped onto the broken bridge, the old metal groaning under their weight. Cirilla clung to him, her tail coiling around his arm without her meaning to. The hunters reached the edge, their glowing blades lighting the night. One of them roared and stepped onto the bridge. Kale spun, his sidearm flashing in the dark. The shot struck the hunter's chest. Sparks flying, the alien staggered but did not fall. The bridge shuddered violently, cracks splitting through its frame. Kale pulled Cirilla forward, forcing every step. Behind them, the hunters pushed onto the bridge, their weight shaking it apart. Cirilla's eyes widened as she felt the structure giving way. Kale tightened his grip on her, his voice fierce. Trust me. Her body convulsed, her instincts exploding inside her. That command, that voice, it bound her completely. She nodded weakly. Unable to resist, the bridge collapsed, metal shrieking as it tore apart. Kale leapt forward, dragging Cirilla. With him, they slammed onto the other side, rolling hard against the stone. Behind them, 2 hunters fell into the abyss, their screams fading into the dark. But one remained, clawing onto the edge with inhuman strength, its red eyes locked on them with burning hate. Kale rose to his knees. Aiming his sidearm again, the hunter pulled itself up, blade glowing, armor cracking but rage undying. Cirilla clutched Kale's arm, her golden eyes burning with fear and something more. You cannot win, she whispered. Kale's jaw tightened, his voice like iron. Watch me. The words struck her harder than any weapon. Her body trembled as her instincts fully ignited. For the first time in her life, she understood the bond was not a curse, it was power. And this human had just awakened it. The last hunter stepped forward, blade raised high. Kale stood tall, weapon ready. Cirilla, trembling, rose beside him, her instincts giving her new strength. Together, they faced the enemy in the dark. The galaxy had always mocked humans as weak, but tonight, in the ruins of a forgotten world, the hunters would learn a truth far deadlier. Asterisk, the secret of her kind. The last hunter's body fell into the abyss, its glowing blade tumbling into the endless dark. Kale stood still for a moment, his chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. The ruins were silent again, but silence here was never safety. Cirilla leaned against the wall, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the night, her claws trembling. Her body still reacted to every word Kale spoke, her instincts clawing at her with impossible need. You should not stay with me, she whispered, her voice heavy with fear. Kale turned to her, his jaw tight. I'm not leaving you. Her body shuddered violently at his words, her tail curling around her legs. She pressed her claws to her chest, as if trying to hold back something breaking inside. You don't understand, she gasped. If this bond completes, you will never escape me, and I will never escape you. Kale stepped closer, his flashlight. Faint now, but enough to catch the trembling of her lips. What bond? He asked, his voice low. Her eyes snapped open, wide with fear, wide with truth. Her voice shook as she finally spoke. My kind were made long ago, not by nature, but by design. She looked at the glowing carvings on the walls around them, her claws tracing the ancient symbols. We were created as weapons, not soldiers of machines, but living weapons bound to warriors by voice, by command, by will. Kale's eyes narrowed. The ruins suddenly felt heavier. You mean you were bred to obey? Cirilla shook her head hard. No, worse than obey. We were bred to merge, to give everything, body and soul, to the one who awakened us. If the bond completes, I cannot resist, and neither can you. It will change us both forever. Kale was silent for a moment, the weight of her words pressing against his chest. The galaxy had always whispered of human weakness, but now, in this broken ruin, he saw something else. He saw that humanity had touched a secret long buried. Cirilla sank to her knees, her claws scraping the stone. My people called it the instinct, but the council called it the curse. They hunted us, enslaved us, scattered us. No one has awakened the bond in centuries. Until now. Her voice cracked, her body trembling harder. And you, a human, spoke, and it returned. Cale crouched down in front of her, his voice steady. Then maybe it came back for a reason. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter, her body jerking at his words. You don't understand? She hissed, tears running down her cheeks. If the hunters tell the council what they saw tonight, the galaxy will burn. They will come not for me, but for you, because your voice carries the power their greatest warriors fear. Cale's stomach turned, but he didn't flinch. He had seen many kinds of fear in his life, but the fear in her eyes was different. It wasn't just for herself, it was for him. Still, Cale's stubborn fire would not bend. Then let them come, he said, his voice hard as iron. Cyrilla gasped, her claws digging into the stone as her body convulsed at the words. Every part of her screamed that this human was no ordinary man. Every part of her knew her instincts were no mistake. But danger was already moving. The wind carried the hum of ships in the distance. Cale lifted his head, his soldier's instincts sharp. They've called for reinforcements, he said. Cyrilla's ears twitched, her tail stiff. If they bring more, even you cannot fight them. Cale looked at her, his eyes steady. Then we don't fight them here. We move. He helped her stand, her legs weak, but her body pressed close to his, every step beside. Him deepened the bond. She wanted to resist, but she could not. Her people had always feared this, because once it began, there was no breaking it, and she could feel it growing stronger, binding her to him with every breath as they moved deeper into the ruins. The carvings began to glow brighter. Cyrilla's claws touched one symbol, and it pulsed with light. Her golden eyes widened. These ruins. They were built by my kind. This was a sanctuary for bonded pairs. If you are here, then it is no accident. The chamber ahead opened into a massive hall, the walls lined with statues of her people, standing beside tall figures not of her race, but other warriors. Each statue carried the same pattern. A voice awakening a bond. Cale's eyes hardened as he understood. These ruins weren't just a city, he said. They were a forge. Cyrilla's voice cracked, trembling. A forge for weapons. And now, the galaxy will know a human has lit the fire again. The sound of engines shook the ground outside, more hunters arriving, ships descending. Cyrilla clutched Cale's arm, her body trembling with instinct and terror. Her voice broke as she whispered, if they take you, they will use your voice to control us all. Cale gripped her hand tight, his voice fierce. Then they'll never take me alive. Her body convulsed, the bond blazing inside her. She realized then her people's darkest fear was no longer about themselves. It was about him, the human whose voice could command destiny itself. Asterisk. The chase across the wasteland. The ruins shook as engines roared above. Hunter ships broke through the clouds, their lights sweeping across the broken stone. Cale pulled Cyrilla into the shadows of the great hall, his heart steady, his eyes sharp. The bond between them grew with every breath, but danger pressed closer with every second. They know we are here, Cyrilla whispered, her claws digging into his arm. Her golden eyes glowed bright with fear and instinct. They will not stop. Not until you are theirs. Cale tightened his grip on her hand, his voice firm. Then we'll make sure they never catch us. Her body shuddered violently at his words, the bond flaring inside her like fire. Outside, the ships unleashed their hunters, dozens of armored figures dropping into the ruins. Their blades hummed with alien energy, their voices carrying across the wasteland. Cyrilla's ears twitched, her tail stiff, her body trembling. They brought more than hunters, she whispered. They brought war beasts. A deep rumble shook the ground, and Cale's jaw hardened. He had faced tanks, and machines on human battlefields. But these were different, alive, armored, bred for destruction. Kale guided Cirilla through a collapsed passage that led out of the ruins. The night opened before them, a wasteland stretching wide, sand dunes, jagged rocks, and the skeletons of ancient machines littered the land. The stars above burned bright, but the sky filled quickly with the glow of hunter ships. They were surrounded, and yet Kale felt no thought of surrender. Cirilla stumbled, her wound bleeding fresh again. Kale caught her before she fell, his voice sharp and steady. "Stay with me." Her claws clutched his chest, her body shaking hard. She gasped, her voice breaking. "You don't understand." "Every word. It pulls me deeper. If this continues, I will not belong to myself anymore." Kale looked at her, his eyes hard. "Then belong to me," he said without hesitation. Her entire body convulsed, her golden eyes wide with shock. Her instincts roared. Louder than ever, her bond was no longer just awakening. It was locking. The hunters spread out across the wasteland, their lights cutting through the dark. Kale dragged Cirilla behind the skeleton of a fallen warship, its hull torn open like the bones of a giant. He studied the terrain, his soldier's mind already working. He had no army, no heavy weapons, only his sidearm, the wreckage around him, and his will to survive. But humans had always turned battlefields into traps. "Rest here," Kale whispered. Setting Cirilla down against the broken hull, she reached for him, her claws trembling, her tail wrapping around his wrist. Her voice shook. "If you fight them all, you will die." Kale's voice came like steel. "If I die on my feet." Her body jolted again, her breathing ragged. She closed her eyes as the bond screamed inside her. His words were chains she no longer wanted to break. The hunters drew closer, their red eyes glowing through the dust. Kale moved through the wreckage, pulling loose wires, shattered metal, and broken fuel cells. His hands worked fast, his mind sharper than fear. He turned the ancient wreck into a trap, lines of fire waiting to ignite. When the hunters stepped into the graveyard of machines, they would find more than prey. Cirilla watched him, her heart racing. Every motion of his hands, every word from his mouth, pulled her deeper into the truth. Her people had called humans fragile, weak, soft. But this man, this human, was something else. His strength was not in claws or armor. It was in his will, his refusal to bend. The first hunters reached the wreckage, their blades glowing bright. Kale stood in the shadows, his finger tight on a cracked igniter. He waited until they were inside, until their red eyes scanned the air with certainty. Then he whispered, "Burn." Wreckage exploded, fire tearing through the night. Metal screamed as the blast ripped across the wasteland. Hunters were thrown into the air, their armor cracking, their bodies burning. Cirilla gasped, her claws pressed to her mouth as the firelight reflected in her golden eyes. The human had turned ruins into weapons, with nothing but scraps and willpower. But more ships descended, more hunters storming across the dunes. Kale rushed back to her, lifting her into his arms. "We move," he said. Her body shuddered again, her voice breaking. "You fight like no one I have ever seen. My body knows you. My soul knows you." Kale looked into her glowing eyes, his voice calm and sharp. "Then hold on to me." The wasteland shook as war beasts charged from the hunter ships, massive creatures with armored hides and burning eyes. They roared, their claws tearing through the sand, their bodies heavy enough to crush metal. Cirilla's fear surged, but Kale did not slow. He carried her across the dunes, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the land met the stars. Every step was a defiance, every breath a declaration. The hunters thought humans weak, but tonight, in the wasteland under alien skies, one human would show them what weakness truly was. Kale's voice cut through the night, steady, unbroken. "They'll have to kill me to stop me." And when Cirilla heard those words, her body no longer trembled. With fear, it trembled with power, because her bond was no longer a curse. It was a weapon the galaxy would learn to fear. Asterisk, the last stand, the wasteland burned behind them, fire lighting the night sky like a second sun. But the hunters did not stop. Their war beasts roared, their armored feet crushing the sand as they closed in from every side. The air shook with their hunger for blood. Kale set Cyrilla down against the jagged rock, his eyes never leaving the approaching shadows. "You cannot fight them all," Cyrilla whispered, her claws trembling against the stone. Her golden eyes glowed with fear, and something deeper fear, not for herself, but for him. Kale loaded his weapon, the last magazine he carried clicking into place. His voice came steady, strong, unshaken. "Then I fight until I can't breathe." Her body shuddered violently, her tail curling tight around her legs. Every word bound her deeper. Every sound from his voice locked the bond tighter. She knew what this meant. His strength was no longer his alone. It was hers too. The first war beast charged, a massive creature, with armored scales and jaws that could tear steel. Kale braced, waiting for the perfect moment. He dove aside as the beast crashed into the rock, sending shards flying into the air. Kale rolled, came up on one knee, and fired. The shot struck the beast's eye. The creature howled, stumbling back, but another was already rushing, its claws tearing at the ground. Cyrilla's instincts roared. Inside her, her body trembling harder, she felt his courage pouring into her like fire. Her claws scraped the stone, her breath sharp. The bond screamed. If she did not fight beside him, she would shatter. She staggered to her feet, her wound bleeding, but her golden eyes blazing brighter than the hunter's blades. Kale looked at her, shock flickering across his face. "You can't," he began. "I can," she growled, her voice raw. The sound sent a shiver through him, and together they faced the hunters as one. The dunes erupted in chaos, hunters swarming forward, blades humming with alien energy. Kale fought with raw defiance, firing until the gun was empty, and striking with the butt of the weapon. Every move was brutal, fast, desperate, but unstoppable. Cyrilla leapt beside him, her claws slashing through armor, her tail striking with deadly precision. She was no longer weak, no longer trembling. His voice had awakened the weapon inside her, and now she was fire and fury. The hunters roared in anger, circling, pressing closer. Kale grabbed a fallen blade from the sand. The alien energy burning in his hand, he swung it with human rage, tearing through the nearest hunter's chest. Blood and sparks burst into the air. Cyrilla pounced on another, her claws tearing across its throat. Together they moved like one, bonded, unbreakable. But the war beasts kept coming. One slammed into the ground, the shockwave throwing Kale back. He hit the sand hard, his lungs burning, his vision blurred. The beast raised its massive claw to crush him. Cyrilla screamed, her voice sharp as lightning. She threw herself between Kale and the monster, her claws blazing with unnatural strength. The impact shook the dunes, sand exploding around them. Her body cracked with pain, but she held, because her instincts would not let him die. Kale rose, blood dripping from his lip, his eyes burning with fury. He picked up the alien blade again. Charging with a roar, the beast swung, but Kale slid under it, slashing upward. The blade cut deep, splitting the armored chest. The war beast howled and fell, its body crashing into the sand. Cyrilla collapsed to her knees, her body trembling, her wound tearing wider. Kale dropped beside her, gripping her shoulders. Her golden eyes met his, glowing bright with pain and something greater. "If you die here," she whispered, her voice breaking, "the galaxy will never know what you are." Kale shook his head, his voice fierce. "If I die here, the galaxy will know I fought." Her body convulsed, the bond blazing so strong she could hardly breathe. Her claws dug into his chest. "You don't understand," she gasped, Your voice is not just for me. It is for all of us. If they kill you, they kill my kind forever." The hunters surrounded them now, dozens of red eyes glowing in the dark. Their leader stepped forward, taller, armored heavier than the rest. His blade burned brighter than fire. His voice was cruel as he pointed at Kale. "The human is ours. His voice will serve the council. His life belongs to us." Kale stood slowly, helping Cirilla rise beside him. He lifted the alien blade, his hand steady, his eyes unbroken. His voice came like thunder across the wasteland. "No," he said, "I belong to no one." The words struck Cirilla like fire. Her body locking to his side, the hunters roared, charging as one, and Kale, with the alien Catgirl bound to his voice, charged to meet them. Together they became what the galaxy had always feared, a human, with nothing to lose, and a weapon that would never leave his side. The answer the battlefield burned under alien stars. Hunter bodies lay scattered across the dunes, war beasts torn apart by claw and blade. Kale stood with blood on his face, and fire in his eyes, his chest rising heavy but unbroken. Beside him, Cirilla trembled, her golden eyes glowing brighter than the fires around them. Her body shook not from weakness now, but from the bond that had consumed her. The leader of the hunters still stood, his heavy armor cracked, but his rage untouched. His blade hissed with alien energy as he raised it high. "You cannot run, human," the leader growled, his voice echoing through the wasteland. "Your voice belongs to us. Your kind will be caged. Your power will be broken." Kale stepped forward, the alien blade in his hand humming with stolen fire. His voice carried steady across the sands. "My voice belongs to no one." The words struck Cirilla harder than any weapon. Her body convulsed, her breath ragged. She felt the bond roar like a storm inside her. It was no longer awakening. It was complete. The leader roared and charged. Kale met him head-on, the clash of their blades lighting the night. Each strike shook the air, sparks flying, sand lifting in clouds around them. Kale fought with raw defiance, his strength fueled not by muscle, but by will. Every time he fell back, he rose again. Every wound only sharpening his fire. Cirilla staggered forward, her claws glowing faint with instinct's power. She could feel his fight inside her, every strike echoing in her blood. The bond had made them one, and if he fell, she would fall with him. Her voice broke as she cried out, "Kale! You cannot win this alone." Kale turned his head for one heartbeat, his eyes locking with hers. His voice came strong, unshaken. "Then fight with me." Her body exploded with power, her claws slashing through the air, her golden eyes burning. Like suns, together they struck, Kale's blade and Cirilla's claws cutting into the hunter leader from both sides. Armor cracked, flesh tore, and with a final scream, the leader fell to the sand. Silence fell across the wasteland, broken only by the hiss of fire. The remaining hunters froze, their glowing eyes shifting with fear. For the first time, they hesitated, because before them stood something the galaxy had long forgotten. A bonded pair, human and weapon, voice and instinct united, unbroken, unstoppable. The hunters fled into the night, their ships rising, leaving the dead behind. The council would learn what had happened here, and when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. Kale dropped the alien blade, his chest heaving, his body covered in blood and dust. Cirilla stumbled to him, falling into his arms. Her claws trembled as they touched his face, her voice shaking. "You don't understand what you have done. You are not just my bond. You are the bond of my people. Your voice can awaken all of us, and the council will come to take it." Kale held her close, his voice steady. "Then let them come." Her body shuddered, her tail coiling around his waist. Tears burned in her golden eyes. "You don't see? You could rule us. You could command us. We would not resist, even I." "I cannot resist. One word from you, and I am yours forever. Kale looked at her, his jaw tight, his voice calm. I don't want to rule you. I don't want to own you. I want you to choose. Her body shook harder, her claws digging into his chest. No one has ever given us choice, she whispered. Not once in all our history. Kale lifted her chin, his voice firm but gentle. Then it begins now. Her instincts screamed, her soul burned. Her body wanted to collapse into him, to surrender, but for the first time, she realized the bond was not a cage, it was a bridge, and across it, she saw him, not as a master, but as a man who had chosen her. She lowered her head, her golden eyes glowing brighter as her voice came soft. And my answer is yes, I am yours, not because my body demands it, but because I choose it. The wasteland was silent, yet her words echoed like thunder. Kale pulled her close, his voice steady. Then we fight together, whatever comes. Her body trembled one last time, not with fear, but with power, because the bond was complete, not of command, but of choice. Far above, the hunter's ships streaked through the stars, carrying word to the council. And when the galaxy heard the truth, they would tremble, for a human voice had awakened the weapon of ages. And this time, the answer was not slavery, but defiance. The galaxy had mocked humanity as weak, but now, under alien skies, one human and one catgirl stood bound as something greater, and the stars themselves seemed to whisper the truth. Humanity would not bow, humanity would not break, and the galaxy would learn that when a human gives his answer, even destiny listens. Asterisk.